Our main message today is stay off the road if at all possible. But again, a lot of down trees. It seems as we clear one, we get 5 more reported trees down somewhere. So again, it's still active, even though there's not a lot of rain here behind us. We see these wind gusts that push through. So again, we're going to continue to see some trees fall, and we want motorists to be mindful of that.
And kind of talk about road conditions this morning. Do y'all know of any closures, delays, anything like that around the area?
Yeah, I know a lot of these other municipalities, for instance, the town of Lexington has some road closures and some flooded roads on Corley Mill Road. That's the area that's prone to flooding. But also some of these creek banks we see start to rise. Some of these other roads in the Irmo area, in the Columbia area, have water crossing. And if you remember back to 2015, our historic flood, our message then was turn around, don't drown. And that still applies today. If you see water on the roadway, don't risk it. If you see a barrier set up on the road, don't go around the barrier because you don't know what lies ahead. And again, we have a lot of resources in place. Every trooper that wears a uniform is out today working, but in order to limit our incidents, we're asking motorists, just stay off the road if at all possible. If your employer is making you come into work today, we want you to just remember a couple small tasks. Remember, reduce your speed, limit your distractions. Most importantly, slow down. And if you see a power line in the roadway, don't drive across it. Report that outage. You can call us, star 47. If you see a tree, again, call star 47, let us know. But again, be cautious, because even as the rain moves out, we're still seeing trees fall. So keep that in mind as you head in to work or you head out for the first time today.
And kind of talking about that, you want people to turn around. You don't want them to go over power lines, anything like that, because if you have to go rescue someone, that's putting your fellow troopers and other first responders in jeopardy. And kind of talk about what you've seen this morning. We haven't heard reports of any injuries or anything like that. Do you know of anyone who's gotten themselves into trouble so far this morning?
You know, we've seen some collisions, and as we see motorists at these intersections who don't treat it as a four-way, or they come to an intersection, power's out. We've seen some minor collisions there as well, but we've been fortunate because a lot of people's heeded the warning. A lot of businesses and schools have closed, and that's limited traffic on our roadways. But as we see traffic start to pick up, we start to see more and more crashes as well, and sometimes those crashes will have injuries. But not only the collisions, we have dozens of down trees, we have dozens of power lines down around the Midlands, and as the day progresses, again, as we clear one incident, we have 5 more that's coming in. So for the people who live in Lexington, the conditions may be different than the person in Sumter. For the people in Orangeburg, they're seeing a lot of down trees and a lot of down power lines. Their conditions are going to be different than what somebody may see in Kershaw. So again, we want people to stay off the roads if they can this morning, but if they have to travel, just use good common sense, reduce your speed, slow down. We preach that over and over through every incident, but today is paramount because, again, as we go out on our roadways and we clear one incident, we're getting calls of 2 or 3 more.
Well, thank you, sir. And that's an important message because we experienced it, like we said, on that drive here today on the interstate. Very windy. We could feel it moving the truck. And actually, Eric turned to me, who's behind the camera, of course, doing great work. But he turned to me as we were coming here on the interstate and said, I'm going to have to slow down just because of how we were getting blown around. So just really good information from the state troopers, of course, reminding you to stay safe out there. And the most important thing, if you don't have to go to work, a lot of the schools are out, just stay home. There's no reason to be out in this. Wait for it to blow through as they try to keep these roads clear, and most importantly, they're trying to keep them clear from anyone getting hurt or accidents like you just heard. So we're going to send it back to you. We're live out here in the Midlands reporting on what we're seeing, but Brandon, we'll send it back to you in studio.
All right, thank you. News 19's Jacob Reynolds out there with South Carolina Highway Patrolman David Jones. Thank you.
Yeah, so definitely something that we want to continue to update you all on are the power outages. They are continuing to go up. In fact, we're seeing some counties where the number of power outages are, it seems like, even doubling. So we want to go ahead and give you an update on that because at last check, statewide, over 130,000 people are without power. Yeah, statewide 130,000. In Richland County now, 27,000 outages in Richland County. That number has risen drastically over the last few minutes. 13,000 now in Lexington are without power, and again 4,000 in Orangeburg are without power. But again, Jim, I'm looking at that number of Richland County, 27,000 people without power. I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, and it wasn't just it wasn't even an hour ago. It was 10.
Exactly.
So now all of a sudden it's jumped up to 27. Must be windy outside.
Yeah, it must be windy.
Must be a little wind and rain.
And this is what we're going to continue to see over the next several hours. And this is, again, another live shot of that tree on Lady Street and Main Street that we've been looking at. And, you know, the winds are going to blow through. And because we've had so much rain and so much saturation, that could happen anywhere.
Definitely, and we want to remind people too, as the power goes out, to just be patient, because we know that crews are going to try to restore power as soon as possible, but they have to do that when the working conditions are safe for them. And so again, we're going to continue to see these numbers rise in crews. You know, they will be out there, they will be working to get you the power back on, but just have a little bit of patience as they make sure that they're safe while doing this as well. But again, we've just seen these numbers go up, and they're growing and they're growing and they're growing. And we've been talking about it, though. We're not surprised by all of the outages that we are seeing.
Yeah, and one thing that I'm noticing from this live shot is it looks like the rain has tapered off just a little bit. It is still raining outside, but it's not raining as hard as it was at one point. And that, Jim, is another sign that the storm is tracking towards the north.
It's pulling away from us, and things are improving. But I do want to mention one thing, because we've been focused here in the Midlands.
Yeah.
And I've been, throughout the week, people have been asking me, well, what, can I go here? Can I go there? One thing that you might want to consider is maybe calling ahead. It's not a problem going south into Florida, not the Panhandle, but the Peninsula. It's no problem going that way. But there is going to be a problem if you're going toward the North Carolina mountains. East of Asheville, they've had even more rain than we've had.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
In Saluda, North Carolina, not Saluda, South Carolina, but Saluda, North Carolina, they've had almost 7 inches of rain. It's still raining, and flash flood warnings extend from Greenville northward all the way to Virginia.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So anywhere in the North Carolina mountains, on the east side of the mountains, it's been a tough night.
Yeah.
And we know several people have been asking about, their flights. A lot of people were traveling today. Call ahead. Call ahead. If you have your airline, call ahead to see what they are. You can also follow, Columbia Metro on Twitter and Facebook. They've been giving updates, as well as Charlotte. But that's always a good idea. If you are planning to travel today, I would call ahead to see if your flight is on time or if it's even been canceled.
Definitely a good idea. And I want to just speak to the video that we were seeing of the highway. Nobody was really on it, and that is actually a great thing for our crews who are out there, because or the highway patrol, they're saying the less people on the road, the better, just because that helps them maintain and be able to respond to any accidents or collisions, and it also lessens the chance of somebody getting into an accident. So again, we're going to keep talking about it all morning. I know you might be sick of us saying it, but be careful on the roads, and don't get out on the roads if you don't have to.
All right, well, we're taking a look right now on your screen. You see this tweet from the Columbia Fire Department. This is the westbound lane of Olympia Avenue, and if you look very closely, a lot of us are familiar with this route because this is how we get to the State Fair. This is how a lot of us travel to get to the State Fairgrounds, but it is now blocked at Maryland Street due to this downed tree. And you can see how large this tree is, and it's blocking, the westbound lane of Olympia Ave. So again, that's why the State Fairgrounds, why their spokespeople, their people, they said, you know what, we're going to close today because we know that this storm is moving through, and you see that tree down as you're heading to the State Fairgrounds.
Yes, all right, now we have Derek Becker with the South Carolina Emergency Management Division on the phone with us right now. Good morning, Derek, how are you doing?
Good morning. How are you?
Good. So tell us, how are you guys preparing for this? What are you seeing? What's going on right now?
Sure. Right now, the utilities in South Carolina are reporting about 130,000 power outages statewide. We do have some reports of trees down over the roadways, and it's going to be a rainy, windy day for folks. So the main message for everyone is to stay home, stay off the roads, stay safe, and if you need help, save 911 for life-threatening emergencies only.
And what type of things are you seeing? I know that you have crews out there who are assessing the situation. What kind of things are they reporting back to you there at the comm center?
Sure. Right now we're getting reports of just, trees down on roadways, not as much flooding as we've seen in previous storms, particularly with Hurricane Florence just a couple of weeks ago. But it's still a very windy type incident with Tropical Storm Michael. So mainly trees down, not seeing a lot of residents with a lot of damage. That's a good thing, and we hope it stays that way. But we do have 11 shelters open with about 90 people in them right now.
All right, Derek, for folks who are losing power or may have questions about what's going on, who should they contact? Because again, like you said, 911 is a number they need to call only for emergencies.
Absolutely. Well, if you have a question or if there's anything that you need in terms of any unmet needs, you can actually call us here at 1-866-246-0000. 0133, or you can follow the Emergency Management Division on Facebook or Twitter at SCEMD on both of those. We've been putting out a lot of information through those channels. Now, if it comes down to your life is in danger, you need immediate help, that's when you call 911. You can also contact your county emergency manager, and that information is actually on our website at scemd.org.
All right, Derek, and one last question, because I know you guys are busy. How is everything just at the department with everybody? Because we're just, coming off of the heels of Hurricane Florence, and now we're having to deal with this. So what's the atmosphere like there right now?
The atmosphere right here is serious. As you might imagine, we do have a tropical storm over the state right now, but dedicated. We've got a good team in place. We're at actually operating condition 3. That's sort of the mid-level readiness that we're at. We have sort of a half the staff here that we would normally have for, say, a full Category 4 style hurricane. But we're monitoring requests for resources from our local agencies, and we're staying ready to fulfill those requests should they be needed. But right now, our focus is on making sure everybody stays safe.
All right, thank you so much for joining us and talking with us, and we're hoping that all of your crews out there stay safe.
Thank you. All
right, thank you, Derek Becker there. Well, we want to check in with meteorologist Efren Afonte because, again, he's continuing to track this storm. So, Efren, give us an update about what you're seeing in the Weather Center.
Well, keep in mind that we still are under a tropical storm warning for all of South Carolina, and the reason why is that the winds continually pick up. Now, as far as the Midlands, we still have that tropical storm warning because the sustained winds right now, you get out to Aikens at 26, Lexington 23, 25 in Columbia. The sustained winds right now in Bishopville is 31, 35 in Sumter, 36 miles an hour in St. Matthews, and 30 in Orangeburg. That's just sustained winds. And the wind gusts are even worse. In fact, we got wind gusts right now in Orangeburg at 45. About 30 minutes ago, we had a reported wind gust at Orangeburg at the airport of 51 miles an hour, and it doesn't fare better when you go into the central and the eastern Midlands. Wind gust right now in Lexington is at 36, 35 in Columbia, 41 mile an hour wind gusts being reported in Bishopville and in Sumter. And keep in mind that even though the position of Michael right now is somewhere around Lawrence County to Newberry County, the winds may be shifting a little bit more out of the northwest, but the wind gusts are still going to be a critical issue with the amount of power outages we have at this time. But this is what we're expecting as far as the wind gusts. So as we go into the next several hours, the winds will continue to pick up about 48 mile an hour wind gusts for Sumter and Orangeburg, 46 for Florence and Myrtle Beach. Even though the winds now are turning out of the northwest in a few hours, coming out in the upstate, still coming out of the northwest with 30 mile an hour wind gusts in Greenville and 36 in Columbia. Now, as Michael keeps on pushing out into the North Carolina region, wind gusts will still continue. By lunchtime, still 30 to 40 mile an hour wind gusts. But then as we get into this afternoon, Michael keeps on pushing up. The winds will start getting better in the western and southern Midlands, but the eastern Midlands will still have wind gusts over 30 miles an hour. And as things start to calm down, closer to sunset, it'll be windy. These forecast wind gusts will be at 20 to 25, which means the sustained winds will be more like 10 to 15. And then finally, the winds start coming down going into tomorrow morning. Now, look at these reports. Just over the last 8 hours, a lot of these tropical storm icons, these are, and I'll step out, this is just what we've reported so far from the National Weather Service on the amount of tropical storm wind reports. Of most of them are trees down, trees in the roadways, trees falling on homes, one flooding report. But just over the last 60 minutes, we've gotten more. We've gotten flood reports east of Lake Murray, trees down in the central and upper Richland County areas. So as the winds continue to howl all throughout the Midlands, we're going to have more reports of trees down. We have more reports of road blockages. Unfortunately, we have more reports of power outages. And as of right now, fortunately, it is now 9:31. The aerial flood advisory, so the heavy rainfall advisory, has now been lifted, but we still have the flash flood warning. This was supposed to expire at 9:15. The National Weather Service has now extended it to 10:15. So if you're just joining us right now, Lexington County, northern Lexington County, from north of Lake Murray along the Newberry County line, all the way down Priceville Lane to east of Gilbert, down to Platte Springs Road, all the way across into Red Bank, South Congaree, to the I-26, I-27 split, Casey and Springdale. You're under the flash flood warning until 10:15. Upper Richland County, all of Upper Richland County, along I-26 from the Lexington-Richland 5 School District, all the way across into I-77, Blythewood, straight down to Fort Jackson Boulevard, I-20, Dentsville, Pontiac, all of I-77 at the split between 20 and 26. It includes all of the Columbia metro area and extends all the way down through Fort Jackson and Hopkins, and then Bluff Road all the way across to the Congaree River. And this is going to continue because even though the rain is starting to taper off right now in many areas of the Midlands, especially where the flash flooding is, more rain is expected as Michael continues to move. All the heavy rainfall that's coming out of the upstate and western portions of North Carolina still have to make its way around through the Savannah River into the Midlands. So if the rain has stopped right now in your area, about 2 hours from now, you're going to get more rain, but it won't be the tropical rainfall. It'll be light to moderate rainfall, but it will still be raining. And the forecast models right now, from all the way down to Aiken, all the way up to Lee County and all of the Midlands, the rains will come to an end by 1 to 2 o'clock this afternoon. But the winds will continue until 9 to 10 o'clock tonight. Well, the time right now is 9:23. We'll continue this, the coverage, team coverage of Tropical Storm Michael when News 19 continues right after the break.
All right, the time right now is 9:36, and we have been continuing to track this storm. Now, Hurricane Michael made landfall in Florida, moved through Georgia, and is now in the Carolinas, and it's moving its way out. And we've been seeing all the images from Florida, from Georgia. We're starting to see images from the Carolinas, but we want to go ahead and send things over to CBS's Nicole Killian, who has the latest from Panama City Beach.
Michael barreled through the Florida Panhandle yesterday as one of the most powerful storms to hit the U.S. in decades.
You see what it did around here. It snapped trees like they were toothpicks.
155-mile-per-hour winds toppled trees, some sliced through homes.
It just came flying through the roof. I heard all the trees snapping and everything. It sounded like a tornado.
The storm ripped apart this Panama City school and turned other buildings into rubble. Residents walked through streets covered in downed power lines.
Michael made landfall as a Category 4 hurricane, knocking out power to about 500,000 people. Utility companies are warning many may stay without power for days, if not weeks.
You live on the coast, this is what you get. So it's just a matter of picking up the pieces and putting it back together, get our lives back together.
Debris covered some cars, others were flipped over. One piece of wood smashed right through a front windshield. Michael weakened as it reached Georgia, but it's now taking aim at the Carolinas and Virginia, still cleaning up from Hurricane Florence.
The storm continues to batter South Carolina and North Carolina, unfortunately. I mean, we're going to see, potentially 9 inches of rain in North Carolina as it exits out.
One early estimate put the initial cost of the storm damage at over $10 billion. Nicole Killian, CBS News, Panama City Beach, Florida.
Wow, just looking at some of those images there from Panama City. So thank you, Nicole, for that. All right, one of the things that we want to take a look at is some of the images that we have that's coming into our newsroom here. And I've been on Twitter and trying to follow some of what our officials have been tweeting at us. One thing that I want to show is, if Delaney, if we have that, the intersection right there. We talked to South Carolina Highway Patrolman David Jones a little bit about this, and this is about the four-way stop, because a lot of people, when the electricity goes out, the traffic lights go out, a lot of people will just fly through the lights. They don't even think to stop. So if you come to an intersection where the traffic lights have gone out, this is what you need to do. You need to treat it as a four-way stop. Flashing red, light should always be treated as a stop sign. If they're flashing yellow, drivers should proceed with caution only when traffic permits. So this is one of the nuggets of information that I wanted to make sure that we shared with our viewers too as well, because if you are out, if you are venturing around and you come to a stoplight that is not working, make sure you treat that as a four-way stop.
Exactly, and Trooper Jones was telling us too, if you guys see this, to call Highway Patrol and let them know about it so they can get out there and help out the situation. We've been seeing, I know in Lexington County, that there is some roads off of Sunset Boulevard that are closed because the traffic lights are out, and we know that that could just be a dangerous situation when you don't have working traffic lights. So again, treat it like a four-way stop. Very good information there.
And if you have lost power, if you've lost power at your home, make sure that you're reporting that to your power company, because they are keeping a log. And again, as soon as they can, as soon as it's safe for those linemen or those crews to get out and to work, as soon as those winds die down, they will go out and do that. Whitney, one thing that we learned when Hurricane Florence moved through is that, again, if you do lose power, you have kind of a life hack of how you can still charge your devices.
Yes, definitely. So something that I learned about, I actually saw my sister was posting about it, and I was like, that's interesting. Okay, so really, if you lose power and you need to charge your phone or charge one of your devices, this is something that you can do. Now, let me stress this importance of this.
Okay.
This is not something, this is not a first resort. This is a last resort.
Last resort.
This is definitely a last resort. So if you have a backup charger, or if you have a laptop or anything like that, you want to use that first, because this is not the best method. It does work if you're in a pinch, but again, this is a last resort. All right, guys, so all you need. You ready? Jim, I'm about to teach you something.
Look, he's interested.
Go ahead. I'm looking. I'm watching.
This is a once-in-a-lifetime moment. Yeah. All right, so you need a car charger, a Duracell battery, and just a spring from a pin. And all you're going to do is take your spring like this, and you want to connect it to the metal piece of a charger. And I'm going to move. Whoop! I'm going to move.
Drop it already?
Yep.
Yeah, we got it.
All right, there we go. I'm going to move up. And so what you want to do is connect this piece to right here. Now, some chargers have it so you can kind of just like connect it like this, but if you can't, that's fine. So you put your little spring right here in the big circle part right here of the battery, so the hexagon area, put that there. Then you want to put the little nub of your car charger in the other part, and then once you connect them, it's kind of hard to do without a table. Once you connect them, voila! There you go.
The blue light comes on. And then you just
and then you just put your charger. You just put your USB cord in there.
And then
how long does that last?
So it can last for however long you want to use it. However, again, you probably shouldn't use it for that long. It's not the best way to do it. This is if you're in a pinch and you're like, I need to just get a little bit of juice on my phone so I can make that phone call that I need to do. But again, very easy. Yeah, there you go. Emergency. Spring, Duracell battery, car charger, and you are good to go.
Yeah, those life hacks there. Thank you, Whitney, for that. All right, Jim, you have an update kind of on rain totals, right? Kind of what's been happening?
Well, obviously a lot of rain. We've had throughout the morning, it's difficult because it's still been raining and the totals have been climbing. Generally, from what we have seen so far, rainfall amounts have ranged about 2 to 6 inches of rain. Now, we had a report from Gilbert of 6 inches of rain, from Pelee of 4 inches of rain, 5 inches of rain in Irmo, and we're still getting reports coming in, so that it's going to take a while to assimilate all those reports coming in because the rain is just now ending across some parts of the Midlands. But we've had a considerable amount of rain. Not that it wasn't unexpected. We expected this. And the rain doesn't fall the same everywhere. So there are going to be differences around the Midlands, just like there have been differences in winds. As far as the winds are concerned, yeah, we've had wind gusts to 50, 55 miles per hour. That's what we were expecting. And we were expecting that before Michael even became a Category 4 hurricane.
Yeah, so y'all knew.
And the forecast for the hurricane has been spot on. You know, from day one that the National Hurricane Center started putting out the forecast, it really hasn't changed very much.
It's been so interesting again to watch this, but one of the things that impressed me the most about this storm was how quickly it went from a Category 1 to a Category 4.
A rapid intensification, and that's something we see more often. And one of the reasons for that was because it was moving across the Gulf of Mexico, and even at this time of the year, it was unseasonably warm.
So that does make a big difference in it, is how warm it's been. So the good thing is you're saying, though, once this storm is through, we're going to see some cooler temperatures.
We are going to be seeing some cooler temperatures. You'll notice it. You know, one of the things that has typified every game, football game, that USC has had this year, it's been hot and it's been humid.
Yeah.
It's just been miserable out there. And this time, they're actually going to get a decent football weekend.
All right, we're looking forward to that.
Every
game on Saturday.
Every time Jim comes out here, it's just better news and better news. I love that. I didn't even think about the fact that it's going to make our weekends, our football weekends, that much better because it's going to be cooler.
We're actually going to be normal.
Right.
For this time of year.
Yeah. And
which kind of tells you, in fact, yesterday,
October 11th.
Yesterday we were 16 degrees above normal.
Wow.
So hot. And you know what? I'm somebody who enjoys warm weather. That's a fun fact about me. I don't know if you knew that. I am the one person who's like, I love the heat. I will say I'm ready. I'm ready for fall. So question though, are we going to continue to see that fall-like weather? Is it going to stick around, or is it just a after effect of Michael?
It will warm up. On Monday we're expecting I think 82 or 83. However, another cold front comes through and knocks us right back down to the 70s.
All right. So a lot of folks are extremely happy to hear that, Jim. Jim coming in with the good news this morning.
All right, Jim, stay close by because we do have some more questions that we want to ask you. But we want to continue our team coverage right now. We've been talking all morning about the tree that fell on a house. This happened on Randall Avenue. One person was entrapped. We sent News 19's Jenna Kurzina to the scene. She is there now. So Jenna, give us an update. What are you seeing? Because we see that tree right behind you in that home.
That's right, Brandon. This tree completely fell and destroyed this home off of Randall Avenue. We were told there were some people in the home. One injury that we know of right now, but as you can see, this tree has completely destroyed this home, and we did speak with the neighbor, and we're going to bring him here in just 1 second and kind of have him tell us what happened, because he actually helped some of the people and the residents of this home get out. But I'm going to bring him in really quick. Keto Jordan, he is a neighbor of the people that live in this home. So Keto, tell us a little bit about what happened, and what you saw.
Well, I was sitting on the back porch drinking me a cup of coffee this morning like I usually do, and all of a sudden I heard a nice sized crack, and I heard a boom, and you could feel the shake on the ground, and I looked over and I realized that the tree had actually fell through the home. So, you know, at that point I'm just trying to calm myself down, get my clothes on, get my shoes, and figure out what we need to do. I yelled to my mama to call 911, and then immediately I exited the house and then grabbed my ladders to enter their home.
And, you know, you've lived here, I don't know how many years, but you knew everybody inside the home. That's correct, right?
Yes, I did.
And who was in the home? You said there was a child?
Yes, there was actually a 1-year-old little girl. Her mother, her father was actually just there, but he had left and went down the street, and then his father was actually in the home, an elderly gentleman.
And I know you said earlier when we were talking that you actually helped one of the gentlemen. You said he had an injury to his leg. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, once I entered the home and got the mother and we got the baby out through the window, then me and the son did enter just to, check on the father, make sure he was okay and see what we needed to do. His leg was broke. We knew we couldn't move him. So at that point, we just made sure it wasn't any electrical fires or any smoke going on, and we just waited for EMS.
And, I think this is a great testament to just how serious these storms can be, and even when they do get to the tropical storm level, how fast and how high speed these winds still are, and how much damage they still can do. And seeing this is right next to your home. This could have been your home. So what's going on in your mind right now?
Well, right about now the adrenaline is coming down, so I'm definitely gonna get me another cup of coffee after this and sit down and just thank the Lord, man. But it does concern me, and I know once the adrenaline comes down, I'm going to really feel the effects that this could have been different. But as of right now, the family's safe, we're safe, and we'll just keep an eye out.
All right, thank you so much, and thanks for helping out the family inside of this home. They were taken to the hospital, correct?
Yes, they were.
Okay, so yeah, this tree did fall onto this home off of Randall Avenue. We just spoke to the neighbor. There were some family members inside. They have been taken to the hospital and are getting treatment. Luckily, there was an injury, but luckily everybody is safe. So I'm gonna send things back to you guys.
All right, thank you so much, News 19's Jenna Kurzina. Jenna, if we could keep you just for a second there, what was your drive like as you were driving out there to that scene in Columbia?
A little bit of rain. It wasn't too bad. There was a couple small branches, but we really didn't notice any major limbs on the roadways. It was pretty clear, but there weren't very many people out driving, which is probably the safest thing to do until we kind of see the impacts and this storm finally get out of the area.
All right, thank you so much, Jenna. And you guys stay safe out there. And again, I just want to talk about the community that we have here in the Midlands. We saw in Florence, I was able to go out to that mobile home in Lexington, and the community coming and helping that man get everything out of his home and making sure he's okay. And then again, we got to see that here, that gentleman Keto helping that family out. So again, when we see these storms, we also get to see just how amazing our community is and how they rally around folks who are just in need.
Yeah, it kind of lifts your spirits in a situation like this, because a lot of people, they're stressed, they're anxious about this storm as it's moving through. But again, Keto, he was on the back porch having a cup of coffee following the storm, heard the crack, and immediately went into action to make sure that his neighbors, that they were going to be able to get out and be safe. So good job, Keto. Thank you. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people in the Midlands right now that are checking on their neighbors, as they should.
Exactly. Now, we also want to continue to show you images of the impact that this storm is having. Now, first up, we have an image of flooding in Bethune, which is in Kershaw County. This truck is doing
everything wrong.
Yes, basically don't do what this truck is doing right now, but you can see that road is clearly flooded. I mean, the water is up to over the sidewalk, and this is a situation where troopers are saying turn around, don't drown, do not go through flooded water like that, because honestly you can easily get swept off.
Yeah, and this is not that unusual at intersections, because you've got drainage coming to a point, and so oftentimes you'll see near an intersection where it's flooded because there's just not, it can't drain off fast enough.
Yeah, the road looks like a river.
Yeah, it does look like a river. And again, you see this other car that's trying to drive through this right now. So if you come to a scene like this, turn around, don't drown. But again, this is in Bethune in Kershaw County there.
And if you have a drain, it's like I do outside of my place. Before I came to work yesterday, I forget what day this is, yesterday,
been here for a while.
I actually went out and cleaned the grade so the water could easily go down through the grade.
Yep.
Because I knew we were going to see a lot of rain.
Yeah, and that it would clog up and then would cause some problems there on the road. I think we have another image coming out of Chapin. I think we have that. Do we have that? Where there is a bridge that is underwater, a bridge that was going over a creek, and now that bridge is underwater. So let's take a closer look at that. And yeah, you can see that right there, as high as that water is and continuing to rise.
Yeah, I mean, and it speaks to the rainfall totals that Jim was telling us about just a couple moments ago. You know, a lot of areas have seen a lot of rain, and the thing about it is the rain is still coming down.
Now, The nice thing about this, if there is such a thing as a nice thing,
silver lining.
A silver lining is that this is not river flooding, which sometimes takes a while, you know, to recede, like over in Waccamaw. But these are creeks. They flood quickly, but they also recede quickly. So, you know, that situation will improve once the rain stops.
All right, now what we also want to do is give you a live look at Interstate 77. We do have a crew who is out there traveling now because we want to give you an idea of what these roads are looking like. And the first thing you see, these roads are slick. I mean, it's obvious. You even see some water pooling on the roads. And so again, this image for me and for all of us is just another reason why troopers are saying, don't get on the roads if you don't have to.
Yeah, and Jim, as we're looking at this picture right here, again, you can see a little bit of ponding. I don't know how fast they are going, but it does look like they are again, able to move at a relatively normal rate of speed.
It looks like they're coming up on I-26.
Yes, that's where it is.
They're about to go on 26,
okay.
Yep.
At any rate, the rain is it's still coming down a little bit because his windshield wipers are going, but it has really decreased quite a bit. So it's not raining nearly as hard as it was. Now it's just light rain. If we take a look at the radar, yeah, the heaviest rain has moved into the northeastern corner of the state. So things are getting better.
Yeah. And every time I feel like every time Jim talks, he keeps coming with the good news.
I'm just the sunshine that you've been waiting
You are
for.
the sunshine on a cloudy day.
And if we look at this radar real quickly, because it does look like, you know, our National Weather Center in Columbia, it looks like they might be back up.
They are.
But it looks like, again, Florence, the PD region, we saw a lot of that when Hurricane Florence moved in and it struck this area. And now it looks like they're under the gun right now with a lot of that heavy rain.
They are. They're getting the heaviest rain right now is in the northeastern part. But notice back over here, this is New Myrtle Beach in Horry County. The Waccamaw River has been a real problem because it's been so slow to recede. I mean, it is receding, but it's not yet under flood stage. It's still going to take some time. This will delay it a little bit, but at least right there where they are, they're not getting any additional rain.
So the heavy rain that we did see earlier this morning, I mean, that started, you know,
that moved on off
as we were coming
northeast.
In, so that has moved out.
And the center of circulation is moving northeast at about 21 miles per hour. Now we're going to have another full advisory at 11 o'clock. That'll be the very latest information we have on the tropical storm.
Are we expecting any more severe weather threats like that? Okay.
No, that's over.
Okay, that's good news too as well.
Yeah, and now the rain is coming in. Now you can see on the radar on the back side here through the western part of the Midlands some banding of showers. This is light rain, and it's not really going to materially add that much to what we've already seen.
All right, and I was on my phone just checking. Trooper Jones, who we have talked to multiple times throughout the morning, he has tweeted out this video right here, and it's flooding off of Piney Grove Road and the Piney Woods Road. He said many roads in this area are experiencing flooding. Again, encouraging drivers and folks, please don't drive, walk, or play in these waters. Troopers and local first responders are helping evacuate several homes in the area, but just take a look at all that flooding. Now, what I would love to talk about and have you touch on, Jim, is why it's important not only to not drive in this water, but you don't want to be in that water walking, skipping, playing anything.
Well, you know, because first of all, you don't know where the source of the flooding is. You don't know what's in the water. As we saw with Florence, the river flooding was just terribly polluted because it flooded other areas that had pollutants. You had farm operations. You just had so much effluents going into the rivers that so much, for lack of a better term, sewage that wasn't treated. And so bacteria levels were sky high. Now, this isn't maybe as bad as what we saw with Florence, but still, it's not, you know, when I was growing up in Florida, it would sometimes not this bad, but you know, you'd see some street flooding and stuff like that, and we'd go play in it and so forth. Now, this is a little different.
Yeah.
This is a little bit more substantial, and you just don't really want to do it. Obviously, we were naive on the bacterial counts that are in these floodwaters, but yeah, it is a fact that flooding actually increases illnesses after the fact.
Wow. And you know what? We saw that when we had the floods here, and we were encouraging
in 2015.
Right, 2015, encouraging folks, hey, don't get in the water. And a lot of folks had to go to their doctor, get shots. People got sick just because of everybody being in the water and stuck in that water.
All right, well, 9:56 right now. We're going to take a little bit of a break, but we are going to continue our extended coverage as we continue to track Tropical Storm Michael. We'll be back after this quick break.
All right, we're continuing to track this storm, and this morning, as we're starting to see daylight, we're starting to see some of these images this morning of the impact that it's had right here in the Midlands and across South Carolina. And so what we're going to go ahead and send things over to Jenna Krzyznia, who's on Randall Avenue, where a tree actually fell on a home. What are you seeing out there, Jenna?
Whitney, right here is the root of the tree that actually fell on the home, and you can see how saturated this ground is from the storms that we have been seeing off and on last night or early this morning. And I don't know if we can pan over to the house really quick. That is where the tree fell on top of the home. We spoke to the neighbor just a minute ago, and he lives right next door, very, very close to the other home, this home, and he said that he helped pull one of the men that live residents at this home that had an injury to his leg. He said that he broke his leg when the tree fell on the home, and the neighbor, Keto Jordan, said that he helped pull this man out of the home. There were 3 people total inside the home. one of them being a one-year-old child, but the others were safe. And the major injury from this tree falling onto this house was the broken leg. But again, this is, I mean, this tree completely came out of the ground, and we were speaking to the neighbor who, you know, helped do all this, helped pull these people out of the home, and he said that the major thing that he learned from this is how serious you have to be prepared for these storms, and you know how seriously you have to take these hurricanes, these tropical storms, and have a plan and be ready. He said it didn't take him but a second to call 911, to rush over to this house to help out his neighbors. And I heard you, Whitney, say in the last part of the show how the community is banding together when these disasters strike in our communities, and how important it is to help out if you can. And you know, we saw it with the Hurricane Florence, the aftermath from that, when Whitney, you were out there when that man had his roof blown off of his home. So I mean, people really are banding together and helping out here. And you know, this is just a crazy image to see in person, see a home completely destroyed. Luckily, it wasn't any worse than it could have been for the family inside. I mean, yes, he did sustain an injury, but it could have been much, much worse. And again, there were 3 people inside the home at the time, according to the neighbor. And we also talked to one of the police officers that came by checking out the scene earlier, and he said, so far, this has been the major incident that has happened here around the Midlands that he is aware of, some other than some trees falling down on roads. But you know, on our drive over here to Randall Avenue, we didn't really see too much debris in the roads, couple branches, nothing too major. But again, this is one of the first incidents that have happened, and this is the scene of it. So I'm gonna send things back to you guys.
Jenna, before we wrap up, if you could, and this might seem like an odd question, but tell us how tall you are, because that just helps us put into perspective how big this tree is.
Yeah. Yeah, I am a little under 5'2". I'm not quite at the 5'2" mark. So this is a major tree, taller than I am.
All right, thank you so much, Jenna. Yeah, again, so we're able to see just how big this tree is. I mean, take a look as she continues to get closer to it. I mean, it is huge. And again, it speaks to, Jim, you know, what happens when a lot of rain and a lot of wind get together. You know, they knock those type of trees over.
And again, we didn't see hurricane force winds. We saw tropical storm force winds, and this is going to happen.
Right, and keep in mind that, you know, just from what, you know, Jenna's saying, she's barely 5'2". The root, just the root of the tree, that had to be at least 6-7 feet wide.
About 6 feet.
And you saw the size of the width of that tree, the tree trunk itself. I mean, that's a very concerning thing when, you know, we're going to see videos like this and pictures like this all throughout the day. And it's not going to end there. We're going to see a lot more in the days to come.
Yeah, and speaking of that, we want to continue to just take a look at some of the images that are coming into the newsroom. Thanks to all of the viewers out there who are seeing images. Now, this one again is from Trooper Jones. Now, he has been tweeting out a lot of video, and this is off of Industrial Drive at Wildlife Road. As you can see, that area right there, that road, it's just flooded. And so I know some folks are like, I was able to drive or I was able to see the roads and they look clear. That's not the case in a lot of places in the Midlands.
You can't see the shoulder. And that's the bottom line that we keep on saying. And Trooper David Jones says, if you can't see the road, turn around, don't drown. How many times in the last 7 months alone of flooding and hurricanes have we seen somebody drive and the road isn't there?
Yeah.
You may be able to see the left side of the road. What happens if the right side of that road's gone?
Yeah.
I think we have another video from West Columbia. This is in the Coldfield area, and this was sent by Leslie Reed. And take a look at that. I thought I was looking at a river, but no, that's her street. Yeah, that's her street right there, and you can see the rushing water there.
It looks like a river. And honestly, if you don't hear us talking, that's because we are in awe of this video. This is the first time we're seeing this video, and there is no road. It is a river.
Hey, look at the sign.
See the sign.
Road
prone to flooding.
And that's exactly what it did. Now, if you had the option of going to work or not, and you thought, man, maybe I'm going to go to work, picture what it's like. You leave your house, you're driving through your addition, and then you see that. And then 2 seconds later, you look behind you and the road's starting to flood.
Yeah.
You're in trouble. And that's why it is always, always strongly suggested that when you hear state officials, municipality issues say that don't go on the road, Governor McMaster said it hundreds of times. And here's a perfect example. In West Columbia, this is somebody's backyard. This is someone's neighborhood.
All right, now we're continuing to see videos. We want to actually take a look at a video or a picture that we got from the Camden Police Department, because these emergency crews, these departments are out here, and this is a tree that is fallen down on, it looks almost like it's fallen on a power line.
Yeah, power line. Yeah. Broad Street and Chestnut.
And they say it's blocking all the lanes. There are traffic lights down at that location. And again, you're going to hear every single department, emergency officials, everybody say, if you don't have to be on the roads today, please stay home. But again, that's at Broad Street and Chestnut Street, and that just toppled over on top of those power lines.
And as you get ready to venture outside yourselves, if you are, make sure that you're doing it safely and take a picture, take a video, take a snapshot of what you're seeing in your neighborhood. And then again, you can send that to us at photos@WLTX. You can send it to us on Facebook, our Twitter, just tag us, just so we can have an idea of what you're seeing in your neighborhood. And thank you to our viewers who send us those pictures and those videos, because it allows us to have a better understanding of what's happening around our community.
Exactly. All right, now we're going to take a look at a picture, an image that is coming from the Columbia Police Department. And right here, we're seeing off of Blossom Street. We've been seeing a lot of images coming out of downtown Columbia, and this looks like a...
if you look at the picture closely, in the middle upper part of the tree, that's smoke.
Oh, a tree fell on the power line. Yeah, now I can see
smoke. So if you think the power line is on the street and, okay, maybe I can drive over it, take a look at that picture and make sure you understand what that is. That's a power line that snapped on top of the tree, and it's live, and it's burning that tree. That's what they always say. You hear SC&G say it all the time. You see a power line down, avoid it, because you have no idea if that wire is live. And this one was. And
immediately report it too if you see a power line down too as well.
And that was reported. From the Columbia Police Department to SC&G, so they would know where to go. And SC&G is inundated with calls.
Yeah, they are inundated
with all of these, with power outages, power lines down. You know, I did want to mention that, you know, Jenna is at a house on Randall Road, a large tree that fell down to the home. I do want to mention this because on Monday, when Jim, Daniel, and I first started talking about the possibility, we're going to see winds, we're going to see strong winds, we're going to see tropical force winds. A lot of people were asking, particularly in manufactured and mobile homes, should I get out? And my response, you guys remember, I said, it doesn't matter whether you're in a site-built home, a regular wooden structure, or brick and mortar, whether you're in a manufactured or mobile home. Ask yourself 3 questions. 1, is your house secure enough? Especially if it's a manufactured or mobile home. Is it tied down properly? 2, is the house secure enough that if something falls in it, will it be safe? And 3, will it be safe enough? Here's the reason why we answer those questions. If you do not feel that you're going to be safe in your home, find a better place. And unfortunately, these people, unfortunately, nobody died. Unfortunately, the husband did break his leg, but this could have been far worse.
So we're going to go ahead and send things out to Jenna Korzenia right now. She's with the Columbia Department Fire Chief, and he is out there as well. How are you doing, guys?
Hey, Whitney. Yes, we're joined by Chief Jenkins here. And, you know, have you been on the scene already today?
I just got out here. We were out here earlier when the tree fell on the house. We got a call for the tree that fell on the house here.
And this was your first call since the storm has kind of been rolling through the area? No, we've actually had several calls before then, and as of about 30 minutes ago, we actually had about 57 storm-related calls for services. And any other trees down, major incidents like this, or has this kind of been the first major incident where people have sustained any injuries and things like that? Yeah, this was the first major incident we had. Actually, when we got here, the person was still on the inside, and we actually had to take a window out and cut some limbs away from the window to get the person out of the house. And, you know, I'm sure this is not your first disaster or first incident that you've seen like this, but you know, what is your message to people at home as this storm continues to bring different effects to our area? What do you suggest for people to do as far as having a plan and being prepared for something like this? I think one of the things is just to keep in mind that the ground is still saturated. Be mindful of trees, especially old trees. They possibly could topple over.
Be watchful for any kind of down power lines, because you want to treat every power line as if it's live.
And, you know, looking at this one, I mean, you said the roots were very shallow. I mean, we can tell how saturated the ground is. I mean, this is a large rooted tree. There's tons of those in the area. So are there any areas that you're specifically worried about or that you're watching out for?
I think you got to be mindful of all areas, you know, because like this particular tree is actually sitting on top of a hill. Like I said, it's saturated pretty good. It's a big tree, big heavy tree, and all it takes is a little wind, rain, and it topple over. So you got to be mindful of all areas. You know, just can't specifically just concentrate on one area.
All right. Is there anything else that you want to add for people watching this at home? Any other tips or safety measures they should take as we're kind of waiting for this storm to pass?
I think be mindful if your power do go out. Just be mindful of not using generators inside the house or inside your garages. Be mindful of those candles. If any way possible, use a flashlight and try not to use candles. But again, the biggest thing is if you see a puddle of water, don't drive through it. Turn around and don't drown.
All right. Thank you so much for answering those questions for us, Chief. Guys?
All right. Thank you, News 19's Jenna Kurzina. And one thing I noticed, the chief say 57 calls in the last 30 minutes.
Yeah. They've done the math. What is that?
It's about one every 30 seconds.
One every 30 seconds, people calling for
and that's just
mutual aid.
one fire department district.
Yeah.
Out of all of the Midlands, just one.
And I wanted to talk about this too. So nothing can be more frustrating than if you lose power and you don't know who to call.
Yeah.
And so one of the biggest things that we have available, a resource we have for you, just head to WLTX.com. If you've downloaded our app or if you need to download our app, do that, because on our app, on our website, we have a web page that tells you who you need to call if you lose power and the steps that you need to take. We're just trying to help make this process just a little bit easier because we understand how frustrating it can be when you lose power. But let's go ahead and get an update on those power outages.
Yeah, and it looks like we're making a little bit of progress here. It looks like in the past hour or so, Richland County, their power outages have gone down from 27,000 at one point to now 18,000 in Richland County. Lexington County went down from 13,000 people without power, 13,000 homes, to now 8,700, more than 87 homes without power. And then in Orangeburg, right now, 4,600, excuse me, 4,600 homes now without power. So it does look like we're making a little bit of progress restoring power to some of those homes there, especially in Richland County.
Yes, definitely. And again, you guys, we want to let you know that if you do lose power, you can definitely stay up to date. You can watch us on Facebook Live. You can download our app and watch us on the app. But again, power outages and downed trees, two of the biggest concerns that we've had and that we are seeing this morning.
You know, Chief Aubrey Jenkins did mention something that is extremely important for those of you who have a generator or about to get a generator. Make sure that you are properly using that generator. You do not put it in your garage. You leave it outside, and where it's located, if you don't have one, get a carbon monoxide alarm somewhere inside the interior of close to where that is. If you recall, during Hurricane Florence, if memory serves me correctly, we did have one death in South Carolina. I believe it was either sisters or a couple that one of them had died due to carbon monoxide poisoning because specifically of that reason. So it's very important that Chief Jenkins wants to make sure that everybody's aware of how to stay safe. A lot of people are using candles still. And it's very important to understand that if you can use candles, that it is a burning flame. And you want to make sure that it's not going to catch on fire or anything, and you're not going to have that catch fire to anything.
All right, I want to go back out to News 19's Jenna Kurzina because she's been at this house on Randall Avenue in Columbia where we know one person was entrapped. We saw how large that tree was. And Jenna, you're actually with someone who actually lives inside that home. Tell us what they experienced when that tree came down.
That's right, Brandon, and I'm standing here with Hector, who was inside the home when this tree fell. He lives here, so tell us kind of, what happened.
Well, this morning, my mother kept calling my phone, and usually she calls me and I know something's wrong, but she called me about another emergency. So by the time I got my keys and stuff and left out the door, rode down the street for probably about like 2 minutes to pick my mother up, my girlfriend called me and said that the tree fell on the house, so I had to rush back home. And I got here. This is what I came back to. It's just, I'm actually lost for words right now. I'm actually in pain right now because of another emergency, another tragedy, difficulty right now. So I mean, just trying to cope with everything right now is just unbelievable.
And I know you said right behind us in this room right here is where your kids usually stay.
Yeah, usually my kids be in this back room right here. I usually be in the living room and have another room on the other side. Thank God that it didn't damage this side because everybody was in the house asleep.
And was it your father who injured his leg? Yes. How's he doing?
He's doing fine. He's at Richland Memorial. They running exams and x-rays and stuff like that, making sure he's all right. But he up talking and everything like that. Thank God that's all he have is a broken leg. Where his bed would be, where the tree fell directly where his head lays. So thank God that he was coming out of the bathroom.
And I know just a moment ago we were talking, and some of the limbs on the trees look like you guys cut them and were trying to maybe take some preps before the storms. But you know, the tree obviously still fell. So talk a little bit about that. You said you were going to try to get it removed, or?
Yes, because we've been having a lot of problems in the neighborhood about all the trees and the limbs and stuff falling on cars and houses and stuff like that, and just falling in the road. So we knew that a tragedy something would happen if we didn't do anything about it. So we did try to eliminate some of the process, but with this right here, this is just something that it's just too big that you can't do.
And you know, how long did you live here?
Well, my sister lived here before I did. She stayed here for about 2 years. I've been living here for probably about 4 months now.
All right. Anything else you want people at home to know? You know, with this just happening, and I know it's still very early, but anything you want to say as people could prepare or make any precautions with this storm still rolling through the area?
Yes. With any storm or anything that anyone's tell you in the news is relating to anyone, any families, to take any precautions, please take those precautions because it is very, very seriously. You may not think things can happen this way, but as you can see, they happen. So if they tell you to take these precautions, please take these precautions because they giving you these things for a reason. Just be blessed, and I'm thankful for my life. I'm thankful for that my family is still here. While this storm is going on, it's very serious. Please take these precautions that they're giving us, please.
All right, thank you so much, Hector. And you know, hopefully your father and everything is okay. And so sorry this happened, but happy that everything else is going to be okay moving forward. So send things back to you guys.
All right, News 19's Jenna Kurzina, and please let Hector know that our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family and his father there as he recovers from that injury. Jenna, thank you for that report.
Yes, definitely. Now we want to go ahead and check in with News 19's Nick Jones. Now he's off of I-26 near Fernandina Road, and Nick, what are you seeing out there?
Well, right now what we're seeing is some flooding on some of this road, especially here on Fernandina Road. We're going to show it right now here to my left. There's flooding on this one side of the lane. Really, there's been cones set up so that right-hand lane heading towards St. Andrews Road is blocked off. Some drivers have been going around the other lane, which is actually clear at the moment. But there's a lot of water kind of flowing through this spot. And if you're not familiar with this area, this is an area that tends to flood a decent amount. And back in 2015, there was obviously we had the massive flooding here in Columbia, and right next door to my left, or to my right, your left, is where the Willow Creek Apartments once stood, and there's nothing there, and they were one of the biggest areas that got impacted by that flooding. So it's no surprise that we're seeing some water out in this roadway right next door to it. So far this morning, as we've looked across the road, we drove on I-77. Traffic hasn't been that bad as far as seeing stuff out in the roadway, but if you get on these back roads where there's a lot of these trees, you're going to see some of the debris out. I saw that on my drive on my way to work this morning. There was a lot of branches out in that way. But people, if you don't need to be out in the roadways, you don't need to be out driving around, try not to be, because you don't know what you're going to run into. Obviously, we're seeing some of that flooding right there. You never know what things could be falling, down on the ground. We talked about the trees. Obviously, you saw what happened with Jenna. I mean, ground could be saturated trees. It might be easier for them to fall down, so you just don't want to put yourself in harm's way. So it's probably best to stay indoors as best as possible. But this is a little bit of what we're seeing so far, a little bit of that flooding, and we'll see how that transpires throughout the day.
All right, News 19's Nick Jones right there off of I-26. Thank you, Nick. Stay safe.
Yes, all right. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and send things to break. We are continuing to have our team together, using all our resources to track this storm. So we're going to have much more on the other side of this break.
Well, welcome back to the continuing live coverage as we cover Tropical Storm Michael. Now, a lot of you have been noticing one thing, and you don't even have to look at this. The rain is starting to come to an end. In fact, most of our Midland communities over the last hour and a half, the rain has started to light down in some areas. The rain has stopped for now, because we still have quite a bit of rainfall that's moving along and wrapped around Tropical Storm Michael. But with the rain that's now coming out of the upstate and through North Carolina, one thing is definitely for certain at this point. Michael is right now somewhere in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg area, and all the rain that's wrapping through the upstate very likely will be impacting the northern half of the Midlands. So basically along I-20 and I-26 and points north. So the bottom line is that in the southern portions of the Midlands, we are likely going to see light rainfall at worst over the next 2 hours. Over the next 2 to 4 hours, we'll start seeing where areas have already lightened up on the rain, that light to moderate rainfall will move through. But all indications right now, as we indicated earlier this morning, that all the rain in the Midlands will finally come to an end sometime by 1 to 2 o'clock this afternoon, which is a great sign. Now, we do still have an aerial flood advisory that's for the extreme northeastern portions of Kershaw County. The bottom line is that with the heavy rainfall that's going there, there's very likely going to be ponding on most of the roadways. But here's a really good thing. The flood warning that we had for Lexington and Richland County, done. So we don't have to worry about any flash flooding issues anymore, and there's no flash flooding issues anywhere in the Midlands right now, but it's still pretty windy. These are current sustained winds, 20 coming out of Columbia and Lexington, 21 in Saluda. It's still pretty windy in the eastern Midlands, where Bishopville's at 33, 35-mile-an-hour sustained winds in Sumter, and 34 in St. Matthews, but that's just the sustained winds. The wind gusts are still all the way up to 45 miles an hour straight out of the south in Sumter, up to 38 in Bishopville and 37 in Manning. So the windy conditions are going to continue for several hours even after the rain ends. Now, for what it's worth, if you don't need to go outside, don't, because temperatures right now may be in the mid to upper 70s, but it is horribly humid out there. And if you wear glasses like I am right now, I can guarantee you 2 seconds after you walk out, your glasses are going to fog up. But guys, the bottom line is that the rain is starting to come to an end. The winds will start dying down as we get into later on this evening.
All right, thank you so much, Efren. You guys are continuing to give us good news as the morning goes on.
Good. All right, thank you there, Efren. Well, as we've been mentioning all morning and as we've been showing our viewers, our News 19 teams, they are out in full force. Yes. They are covering this storm to try to bring you the best images that what we've seen. So News 19's Jacob Reynolds, he has now moved to Lexington off of Corley Mill Road. And Jacob, what's the scene where you are?
Well, you guys, I've got more good news. Corley Mill Road is back open. We did see traffic going both directions, and I'm actually at the intersection of Corley Mill Road and Sunset Boulevard here at Saluda Point. And Corley Mill Road, we were hearing reports earlier, it was closed, experiencing delays because runoff from the Saluda River to 12 Mile Creek was going up over the roadway. And we have video of just how fast that water was moving just a few minutes ago. It is back under the roadway now, going under that bridge. And like you heard just there as that video started, the sound of the water was the most impressive thing. Just seeing Mother Nature in action. And there's a reason we've been warning you all day, all this week. We've heard from the state troopers telling you the same thing. When this water's coming over these roadways, that's why you don't drive across it, because of how fast it's going, and you can't see how deep it is. But that water back under the roadway now, going under that bridge. Like we said, all that water is runoff from the Saluda River to 12 Mile Creek and 14 Mile Creek that branches off on the other side of that roadway. But like we said, back open, traffic going over both sides of that road. But you can see on the one side of that bridge, kind of goes over another, I don't want to call it a dam, but that's the closest thing it looked like, going over that. And you can see just the power of all that water moving through. And that's why when we tell you don't drive through these roadways, turn around, don't drown, that's why, because it only takes a few inches of that water to start moving your car and putting you in a very dangerous situation. And as you can imagine, if you were trying to get over that roadway with water over it, you'd be pushed into that runoff and it would be a very bad situation. So that's why these things are nothing to mess around with. And it's that way all over here, including with these intersections. Thankfully, this one has power, but like we heard earlier this morning, you want to treat any intersection you come across today that doesn't have power as a four-way stop. Of course, the troopers telling us to pack your patience this morning. That's important. And so far, conditions not too bad out here. We are getting occasionally strong gusts, but the rain has let up pretty good. We're just getting kind of a fine mist now, is the best way to describe it, as opposed to earlier this morning where it was really coming down. And traffic has really picked up in the last few minutes here, people going about their day. Of course, like we said, the troopers urging people, if you don't have a reason to be out, if you're not trying to get to work, many of the schools are out, there's really no reason to be out here. Some of the businesses around here starting to wake up. The McDonald's across the street has people going through the drive-through. The Taco Bell looks like it's about to open, but that is the scene here in this part of Lexington County, where, like we said, Corley Mill Road, we can report, is back open. We'll keep an eye on it. But like we said, even though this road's back open, if other roads have water on them, as we showed you, the power of this water, even though it might not seem like a lot, it can move quickly and can do some damage. So turn around, don't drown is the message I'm going to leave you with. Reporting live in Lexington County, I'm Jacob Reynolds, News 19 WLTX.
All right, thank you, Jacob. Really good advice right there. I do want to take a look at some video that's just coming into our information center on the campus of USC. We know that the students there, they were out of school today, the campus was closed. This is near the Women's Quad right there on the campus of USC. And as you can see, this is a huge tree. This is a huge tree that looks like it's snapped in half, and it is now laying across the grounds there of the Women's Quad near the University of South Carolina, right here in Columbia.
And as we've been seeing this morning, we're continuing to see images come in, and this is really what we've been seeing. Almost the theme of the damage is all these trees that are coming down, and Jim's been talking about, you know, we're just dealing with tropical storm winds here, and so again, just trees everywhere. We saw that tree on that house earlier. We're seeing trees on roadways, and now this tree here on USC's campus. Now, we also want to show you some other video that we got in that's coming off of Forest Drive right here in Columbia. If we can get that up, another example of what's been happening. We see just river flooding that looks like over that bridge, a tree down right there.
And look how high that water is there in the
now,
creek.
is that Gills Creek?
Is that Gills
Is
Creek?
that
It almost
Gills
looks
Creek?
like Gills Creek.
Oh, 8 Mile Bridge.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, again, all these images are coming in as the sun comes up. We're continuing to see more and more damage out here, but thankfully it hasn't been too bad. We haven't seen, you know, too much widespread damage, which is a good thing there.
And when we were looking at that image from the University of South Carolina, I just keep thinking about the students. You know, that's student housing, that's where the students are, so hopefully nobody was injured, and that's why we tell people to stay inside during the height of the storms, during something like that, because again, those trees can just fall down. Again, we're looking at some more video of the ponding, of the flooding there along 8 Mile Branch here in Columbia.
All right, now for all of our friends who are on Facebook, you know, we know a lot of people have been joining us there because they did lose power. We have some folks who are hopping on Facebook because, like we've been telling you guys all morning, we want to be able to answer any questions. We want to be transparent. And so that way, if you have a question, you have a concern, you can just let us know. And so we want to ask some of those right now. And Marcel Brown is asking, basically, how bad is it in this area in regards to the storm? Where's the storm moving and how bad is it right now?
Well, the storm is circulation now is moving on up into the northeastern part of our state, and it will be out of South Carolina probably around noontime or shortly thereafter on up into North Carolina. This played out very much as we thought it would. The rains came through during the day, the worst of it. Well, we did see a couple of tornado warnings that came out right at the end of our 11 o'clock show. There were a couple of more tornado warnings, but they did turn out to be as bad as they could have been. So other than that, and that tornado threat is over with, we're not going to be seeing that. It's been primarily the wind and the rain. And the rain is tapering off now, but the winds are still gusting outside enough to bring down trees, and because the soil is much wetter than it was, now it's a little easier to blow some of those trees down. That's one reason why Chief Jenkins saw such a surge in the number of calls over a short period of time. The rain was coming to an end. We were still getting those wind gusts. Boom, trees down.
Yeah, and can we talk a little bit about flooding? This is video from Leslie Reed, and I believe this is out in West Columbia. And this right here, this video is some of the first video we got this morning. This is off of Piney Grove Road, and if anybody knows that, if you've been out in the Harbison area, that's where that area is. In their neighborhood, just looks like the streets are underwater.
I don't know if this is the same area of Piney Grove, but I know that there is an area of Piney Grove that tends to flood in heavier rains. But keep in mind, Irma picked up about 5 inches of rain. So this is not a surprise.
And we know that if you do live in low-lying areas and you are prone to flooding, you are probably experiencing some of that right now. We are getting a lot of questions from some people who it looks like they live outside of the Columbia area. They're watching us right now on Facebook, and they're wanting to know, when can they make it into Columbia? So a lot of people, they had travel plans, they're talking about traveling. So when would it be safe for people if they're trying to make it into the Columbia area to maybe to get here?
The main roads are probably in decent shape now. The rain has come to an end, and those trees that came down on the interstate, like up near the Chapin, I'm sure they're probably being cleared at this point. DOT is taking care of some of that. And so just give it a little bit more time. I think by mid to late afternoon, you shouldn't have any problems getting into Columbia.
That's definitely some good news there. You're also right now taking video of another tree down that we saw earlier this morning. I believe this was in Chapin. And again,
on the interstate,
yes,
it
was on the interstate, and this was a scene that we were seeing a lot. We were hearing a lot of folks telling us this morning either they didn't have power or that they knew of a lot of trees that were down in their area. Again, two big things that we were seeing all morning.
And we know that SCE&G that they have 2,700 linemen that are standing by that are waiting to get out there. We know that the power outages, we've been watching that map all morning long, and we know that those numbers, they are starting to decrease. So it does look like there is power that is starting to be restored. This is across the street from us here at the WLTX studios on Garners Ferry. I know that we lost power here at the station. I know that they lost power across the street. I'm not sure if it's back on or not. I know we lost air conditioning here in the studio, and it still feels like the air is out here. But again, you see that number right there, power outages. Richland County, they have more than 18,000 right now. That was down from 27 at one point. Lexington County now has a little more than 8,700, and Orangeburg, 4,600 power outages right now. But again, as soon as the winds start to die down, Jim is telling us that's when those power operators, those linemen, will be able to go back out.
And I think for most people, the power will be restored later today.
Okay.
And that's good news. So if you didn't have power when you left this morning, I'm hoping that when you go home, you will have power. So again, good news there. Now, again, we want to continue to show you these images that we're getting in. So we want to be able to show you a lot of what our viewers are seeing, but we'll show you all of these images that are coming in more a little bit after this break, but we'll end on just some of the things that we're seeing. This is actually from a food lion off of Forest Drive, and you see all those trees down in that area, in Eastover, excuse me, a food lion in Eastover, and just snapped. Look at that, just snapped in half. Snapped in half. And again, so thank you to everybody who has been sending us those pictures and those videos. You are really helping us tell the story of what this storm has done in the Midlands.
So what's in store for the rest of your Thursday? Well, after the break, we're going to check in with our team of reporters and our meteorologists who are standing by as we continue to track the effects of Tropical Storm Michael. Stay with us.
So welcome back to News 19's continuing live team coverage of Tropical Storm Michael. And all indications right now, as we take a look at the radar, that Michael, as an incredibly weak tropical storm at this point, is going to be positioned right over Chester County, South Carolina. But still a lot of rainfall that's involved in it as it continues to wrap that moisture all the way through and precipitate all that heavy rainfall. But the heaviest rainfall is now moving through the PD of North and South Carolina and then into the upstate as well as into the western half of North Carolina. Now, we still do have a tropical storm warning in place for not only all of the Midlands, but just about all of South Carolina. And the reason why is that the winds still have been picking up quite a bit. At this time, winds sustained about 23 miles an hour in Columbia, 20 in Lexington, 24 in Aiken, 30 in St. Matthews. All the winds are coming now out of the southwest. Meanwhile, in Sumter, they're at 35 miles an hour, and Bishopville 37 coming out of the south. So with the position of Michael, somewhere just north of Fairfield County, all that wind is just wrapping up around it. Hence the reason why we've got different directionalities. But regardless, it's still pretty windy with the wind gusts. In fact, last report we had in Columbia was at 33, 38 in Bishopville, 45 in Sumter. This is the highest I've seen so far. Manning has gotten a 48-mile-an-hour wind gust, and still pretty windy conditions out in Saluda, 31, and Aiken, a 33-mile-an-hour wind gust. Now, this is our wind gust forecast over the next 12 hours. As the position right now of Michael's continues to move out of the northern portions of the upstate into North Carolina, to the east of it, winds are still pretty stout. Florence, 52-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Sumter and Orangeburg, 46, 31 in Columbia. But as we continue by lunchtime, Michael moving to the north, the winds will start to get a little bit better. Still dealing with the wind gusts over 35 miles an hour in the central and eastern Midlands. Look at Rock Hill, 53 miles an hour, and it's coming out of the northwest. So you can see that Michael continues to push through. As we get into the early evening, Michael will be positioned somewhere up in Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina. All the wind profiles, with the exception of the Piedmont, will be coming out of the west, gusting up to 25 miles an hour. But as we get into sunset later on tonight, wind gusts will be maybe 15 to 25 miles an hour, but the sustained winds will be more like 10 to 15. And at that point, things will start to calm down as far as the winds. Now, as far as the rain, very light rainfall is coming down right now, but as strong as the winds are, it feels like as if it's raining a lot harder, but it's very light to sprinkles at this point. Now, where we had the flood warning earlier this morning that expired at 10:15, the National Weather Service now has issued a flood advisory for the same areas of North Lexington and Central and Upper Richland County. There's very likely going to be a lot of ponding on the roadways and some of the creeks getting a little bit over their banks, and a couple of the areas, especially in secondary roadways and neighborhoods, where we could have a little bit of water flowing through the roads. Out to Kershaw County, you still have the aerial flood advisory for the far northeastern portions of the county, in which as well ponding on the roadways and some of the creeks spilling a little bit over. Although the rain has tapered off, that's the residual effect of all the rainfall we've had over the last several hours. That's why we continue a flash flood watch for all of the Midlands until later on this evening. They are having a lot of heavy rainfall. The flooding that we had in the central Midlands early this morning, now they're experiencing it up in the upstate. Now, the rain will continue. The rain is going to continue wrapping through, but the good start is that as that rain continues to move through, we are looking at maybe moderate to heavy rainfall over the next 2 to 3 hours, primarily in the northern Midlands, primarily going to be Fairfield, Newberry, Kershaw, and maybe Lee counties. But all indications that the rain is going to be coming to an end. It's already coming to an end right now in the southern Midlands, but for all of our Midland communities, the rain should shut off by about 2 o'clock. And believe it or not, by 7 to 8 o'clock at night, we are going to have not only clear skies, but a starry night, and we won't have to worry about the rain anymore. And Brandon Whitney, finally getting some really good news and better news. And honestly, over the next 2 to 3 hours, once the rain shuts off and the winds start coming down, I think a lot of us are going to be able to finally breathe a sigh of relief that it'll be finally over.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Efren, because I was going to say, you know, this has felt like a marathon this morning for a lot of us who have been up watching this storm. So thank you for your excellent coverage there. Well, our team coverage continues right now because we do have our crews that are on your side that are out throughout the Midlands.
Yeah, so right now we want to go to our friend Nick Jones, who's on Coalfield Drive. We saw some images from there earlier of flooding, Nick.
Yeah, I'm going to step out of the way so you can go ahead and see what this flooding looks like. This is pretty heavy. This is right off Coalfield Drive in West Columbia. It's about 1/4 of a mile away from the Saluda River, and really there's a creek right down the road here. It's called Roos End Branch, but they blocked the road about 20 feet back from where we're at right now, and as you can see, there's some dogs that are actually sitting right here, kind of just assessing the water and see what's kind of going on there. But there's a strong current kind of flowing through this area. And this road is normally subject to flooding, as we mentioned. It's really close to that creek, to the Saluda River as well. So this is probably not the first time they have dealt with something like this before. But right now, this is kind of what we're seeing as far as you know, heavy flooding, and it's probably going to be an issue for this area for quite a while. But we've been trying to see if we can make contact with people that are around here, or if there's people up around this road, see if they, you know, if they can take care of these dogs. There's actually someone right now that's driving through the water. Something you should not do. Keep this policy. You don't want to drive in the water. You don't know what's in there. You could be swept away. But somebody's driving all the way back through that area right now. And this is going up towards almost to the door handle, and they made a turn on the curb right there, which is another side road. But that's another thing troopers are asking people not to get out on the roadway or drive through the water, because it's definitely something that you don't want to do. Let me see, we got some people right here. Hey, are y'all from this area? Y'all live around this road?
Yeah, we live right here. Yep.
So y'all mind talking to us a little bit, kind of what you have an experience in this morning? What's your name?
Sarah.
Sarah, what's your name?
Lindsay.
Lindsay, I'm Nick. So just talk to us a little bit what you have been experiencing this morning.
So it was raining real hard last night, and then Lindsay came in and said I should move my car. It was up here and the floods were all the way up next to our house, and it's flooded in the backyard. So I think we were able to move that before any water got in there. So
is this something y'all kind of used to?
We've had some rains before.
It happens every time it rains. We have about 3 feet of water in the our backyard right now, but thankfully it hasn't reached the house.
That's great. It hasn't got to your house. I mean, just talk about, like, when you look at this right here. I mean, what does that kind of go through your mind?
Well, it definitely, you know, looks really crazy and everything. And like I said, we're just glad there's not more houses around here. And our neighbor said that he's kind of prepared for this, and he's built up some different defenses about that. But just glad that it's not closer to our house. So.
Do you know if any of the folks are in their homes right now?
So the man who just drove by, that's where he lives, and he's headed that way to see how much damage it is. But yeah, that's the only person who's in there right now.
Yeah, it makes me want to go kayaking or something. Go straight to the river. We don't have to drive.
So there's a creek right down the road from here, right? Besides the Saluda River, but there's another creek that flows through here.
Straight into there. So that's where all the water's going.
So what's y'all's plan right now as far as just waiting this thing out and see how it's going to impact your home and that kind of deal?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm in school and our classes were canceled today, thankfully, just because of obviously the flooding and everything. So called the power company, let them know we don't have any power, no Wi-Fi or anything like that, and so just hopefully letting the waters reside. So.
Have y'all been trying to, you know, keep in touch with all the people around here just to make sure everybody's good to go?
Yeah, so contacted our neighbor.
Yeah, we checked on him this morning because the water was a lot higher. He's fine. Says it's been much worse when the flood of 2015. So yeah, everyone's doing good. Just a lot of water.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see what kind of plays out. Hopefully y'all won't have too much more issue, but this is definitely pretty crazy that y'all are doing something like this right now.
Absolutely. This is worse when the Hurricane Florence came through, so.
Well, there you go. So that's a little bit of what they're experiencing now. It is worse than, you know, what they say is worse than what Hurricane Florence brought to the area. So we'll have to continue to update you what's coming on through this area as things transpire. Back to you.
All right, thank you, News 19's Nick Jones there in West Columbia. And hopefully, from the time that we first looked at that live shot, it looks like the water is starting to recede just a little bit there. So again, we're hoping for the best for those families there, because as you heard them say, they don't have power, they don't have Wi-Fi, and they're just waiting. But she did say this does happen every time they get a heavy rain. So hoping for the best for that community.
Yeah, it's good to know that they're prepared. Now we're going to go ahead and head over to Lexington County, where Jacob Reynolds, when we last talked to him, had some good news because Corley Mill Road was once closed, is now back open. What's traffic looking like out there?
Well, good morning, you guys. And it has, like we said, picked up. This intersection, even in the half hour or so we've been parked here, has seen a lot more traffic. And this is the intersection of Sunset Boulevard and Corley Mill Road. And it was down through this intersection, down a little bit of a hill. Corley Mill Road from runoff from the Saluda River was coming over that road, according to state troopers and Lexington County. That road is now back open, like we told you a few minutes ago. Traffic moving in both directions across that road, and that water from the Saluda River running to 12 Mile Creek, it was, by the time we got to it, and I'm not sure if we have access to that video, but hopefully we can put it up, but that water moving quickly under the bridge, thankfully. But you did kind of see the power of Mother Nature with just how quickly that water from rain and everything else can come through and go under. And that's why they tell you turn around, don't drown, because you get caught in that. Just a few inches of water moving swiftly right across that roadway can do put you in a bad spot and puts first responders that would have to come get you in danger. So that's why they tell you turn around, don't drown. But like we said, thankfully that water back under the highway, but just the, like we said, the amazing power of that water. And there's still some strong gusts down here. I think we're showing you now the TD Bank across the street does have a sign that's hanging out, flapping in the wind a little bit. There's an American flag over here in front of this McDonald's that I don't think Eric will be able to get to, but it's been going pretty good all morning. And you do see the trees blowing around here. The gas station we're in the parking lot of, the Exxon here at this corner, said they lost power for about 45 minutes earlier this morning, but it was back on. And it does look like the Chick-fil-A across the street from us here, looks like it was closed earlier, pretty dark inside, but now we do see people in that location, cars in the parking lot. So it looks like this part of Lexington County is starting to wake up and venture out as daylight has come on what's left of Hurricane Michael, or Tropical Storm Michael, as it rolls through this area. But like we said, good news. It looks like water's receding out here. Corley Mill Road back open. Winds have nothing too extreme, just a few gusts here and then that kind of flap the car doors back and forth, but nothing too extreme. And we'll send it back to you, as it looks like Tropical Storm Michael not doing too much damage out here in Lexington County. Of course, I'm live. Jacob Reynolds, News 19 WLTX.
All right, thank you so much, Jacob, and you guys be safe out there.
All right, we want to check in one more time with News 19's Jenna Kurzina. She is live now on Randall Avenue in Columbia. And Jenna, we've been following this story of this huge tree that kind of split that house in two behind you. We know that one person was injured in that.
That's right, Brandon. We talked to the homeowner, we talked to the fire chief, the neighbor. This has kind of been an all hands on deck situation here. The neighbor, just to recap, said that he actually came into the home after the tree fell. He heard it fall, called 911, ran over immediately to help out the residents in this home. We were told there was about 3 people in the house at the time, one of those being a 1-year-old, but one of the 3, a man was injured. He had an injury to his leg, was taken to the hospital. His son did tell us that. But yeah, this is a massive tree that fell and completely split this home in half. The residents are very thankful that the neighbor was around and was able to run over here and help them out. They're kind of been coming back and forth, assessing the damage, taking some pictures, but all say that they are very thankful that it wasn't anything worse and that they are okay and still have their lives. But yeah, the roots on this tree have this ground is completely saturated. These roots are very large, and they did say they cut some of the limbs down prior to this, but that did not stop the tree from falling. And again, there were 3 people in the home, 1 injury, 1 man in the home did have some injuries to his leg. They said that the tree fell around 7:30, 8 a.m. this morning. Brandon and Whitney.
All right, thank you so much, Jenna, for that update. Again, wishing that family the very best as that man tries to recover. Now,
we've been tracking this storm as it's made its way through the Carolinas. A lot of people wondering now, what is next for us? What can we expect for the rest of the day?
Fall.
We are looking forward to that.
Well, I mean, honestly, the really good thing is that right now that the rain, for the most part, for the Midlands is finally starting to taper off. Yeah. There's going to be some light to moderate rainfall, especially in the northern Midlands, over the next few hours. But
it's coming to an end.
It is. It's coming to an end. Now, it's going to stay windy, though. Well, it's going to stay, windy. We're probably going to still be dealing with 35 to 40 mile an hour wind gusts for the next several hours. But honestly, the rain shuts off by 2 o'clock at the latest. The winds will start tapering off, reasonably below 30 mile an hour wind gusts by 9 o'clock. And by the time we get about an hour or two after sunset, the skies are going to start clearing out. We're going to see a lot of starry nights. And then by tomorrow morning, and you can give the great news.
It's going to be great. It's just gonna be great. Now, and it'll be a great day for the State Fair.
Yes, you know what? There is light at the end of the tunnel. You just got to get through the tunnel first. That is what
we're there.
Yes.
All right, and our final minute together, thoughts on this storm, because again, you two have been in the Weather Center. You've been tracking the storm from the very beginning. Your thoughts as we're coming to an end here in the Midlands with the storm.
Well, it was unusual. It's certainly different from Florence, but it's just a reminder that all tropical storms are different.
Yeah.
And no matter how you forecast it, no matter how you look at it, every situation is going to be different. And as experienced meteorologists, the bottom line is that you take your experience of what it was and try to conform of what you think it's going to be. And we did that exactly right.
All right, well, thank you both. Thank you to all of our teams of meteorologists, our News 19 crews that are there. We will continue our coverage online, and we'll see you again for News 19 at noon. Have a good one.